The Galactic Sun Trial was a test unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. It was a grand spectacle orchestrated by the Galactic Council to determine the resilience and worthiness of species across the galaxy. Billions of beings from countless worlds tuned in to watch as the trial began, their eyes fixed on the colossal arena orbiting a volatile, white-hot star. The Council had designed this test to be merciless, subjecting participants to levels of solar radiation no creature should survive. Humanity was a last-minute addition to the trial, invited as an afterthought. To the Council, humans were primitive, barely capable of interstellar travel, and certainly unfit for the galactic stage. The other species scoffed at their inclusion, considering it nothing more than a formality before their inevitable annihilation. Fragile creatures, the Zovarks had mocked, their reptilian faces twisting into sneers. They won't last a single pulse of the star's fury. As the trial commenced, the arena's energy shields lowered, exposing the participants to the star's raw power. Radiation levels spiked immediately, bathing the arena in blinding light. The first to fall were the Thrixians, their crystalline bodies shattering under the relentless heat. Next, the Marves collapsed, their water-based physiology evaporating into nothingness. One by one, species began to falter, their screams of agony echoing across the galaxy. But then, the cameras turned to humanity. Standing amidst the chaos, the humans were fine. Not just fine, they were thriving. While others writhed in pain, the humans seemed almost energized, their skin absorbing the sunlight like plants in bloom. Commander Elena Vargas, leader of the human contingent, even smiled as she adjusted her visor, shielding her eyes from the glare. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as the humans stood unscathed, their resilience defying all logic. "How is this possible?" one of the council members whispered, his voice trembling. The Zovarks were livid. Their leader, General Xarn, slammed his clawed hand onto the table. "This is a trick. No species can endure such intensity without technological augmentation." But there were no tricks. The humans wore no special suits, carried no advanced shielding. They simply endured. As the trial progressed, the other participants dropped out or perished, leaving only humanity standing. The Council's announcers, who had initially dismissed the humans as weaklings, struggled to find the words to describe what was happening. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing something unprecedented," one commentator stammered. "Humanity has survived the Galactic Sun Trial." In the aftermath of the trial, the Council summoned the human delegation for an explanation. Elena Vargas stood before the assembly, her calm demeanor masking the whirlwind of thoughts racing through her mind. "Our species has always adapted to adversity," she began, her voice steady. "Our planet, Earth, is bathed in sunlight. We've evolved to thrive under its rays. What you saw today wasn't a trick or a miracle. It's just who we are." The room erupted into murmurs. Some species were in awe, others in disbelief. The Zovarks, however, remained silent, their predatory eyes narrowing as they observed Vargas. To them, humanity's resilience was not a marvel but a threat. As the council session adjourned, Sarn gathered his advisors. "These humans," he growled, his voice dripping with malice, "are more dangerous than we thought. If they can withstand the sun, what else might they be capable of? We cannot allow them to rise unchecked." Far from the prying eyes of the council, the Zovarks began plotting. To them, the Galactic Sun Trial had not just revealed humanity's strength, it had marked them as a target. And in the shadows of the galaxy, a plan was set in motion, one that would test humanity's resilience like never before. For the humans, the trial was a victory, a moment of pride. But for the galaxy, it was the beginning of something far greater, a ripple that would soon become a tidal wave. Unbeknownst to them, humanity's unyielding spirit had ignited a fire, one that would burn across the stars, challenging everything the galaxy thought it knew about strength, survival, and what it truly meant to be invincible. The quiet following humanity's victory in the Galactic Sun Trial was short-lived. While many species in the galaxy celebrated the surprising resilience of the humans, whispers of discontent and jealousy began to spread. In dimly lit chambers on far-flung planets, murmurs of alien resentment turned into plans for action. For the Zovarks, humiliation burned deeper than the heat of the trial star. General Xarn watched the recordings of the trial on an enormous holoscreen in his war chamber. Every detail of the humans' calm demeanor, their defiance against the sun's fury, replayed over and over, fueling his anger. "They have no technology superior to ours," Xarn snarled, his sharp claws scraping against the polished metal table. "They're untested, reckless beings who just got lucky. This display of theirs is nothing but a fluke." But his advisors were less convinced. One of them, a slender Zovark with a cybernetic eye, hesitated before speaking. "General, if they truly evolved to withstand such extremes, imagine what else they might be hiding. Their resilience is unnatural. We should act before their confidence grows." Xarn nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the image of Commander Elena Vargas, standing unshaken in the trial. "Then we strike before they realize their strength. Let's see how resilient they are when the stars themselves turn against them." Unbeknownst to humanity, the Zovarks had already begun marshaling their forces. Their warships were infamous across the galaxy. Sleek, black vessels equipped with solar disruptors capable of manipulating the energy of nearby stars. It was a devastating weapon that had brought countless civilizations to their knees, and Xarn was determined to make Earth its next victim. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the atmosphere was far different. News of humanity's triumph in the galactic sun trial spread like wildfire. People celebrated across the globe, proud of their species for proving the galaxy wrong. On every screen, Commander Vargas became a symbol of hope and strength. For the first time, humanity felt it could truly belong in the wider galaxy. In a quiet corner of Earth's lunar base, Vargas stood with her team, reviewing transmissions from the Galactic Council. Although she wore a confident smile during the trial, her mind now raced with questions. Why had the Council invited humanity to such a dangerous test in the first place? Was it truly a gesture of inclusion, or something more sinister? Her second-in-command, Captain Renaldrin, leaned against the console beside her. "The Council seems almost too eager to praise us," he said, frowning. "It doesn't sit right with me. They were ready to dismiss us, but now they're calling us an example of galactic strength. What changed?" Before Vargas could respond, a sharp alarm echoed through the base. Red lights flashed as the comms officer shouted, "Commander, incoming transmission. Priority 1. The hologram that materialized was from an anonymous source. The shadowy figure spoke in a hurried tone, their voice distorted. "Humans, you are in grave danger. The Zovarks are planning to strike. They see your survival as a threat to their dominance, and will stop at nothing to crush you. Their fleet is en route to your solar system, and their weaponry is designed to harness and weaponize your own sun against you." The room fell silent as the transmission ended abruptly. Vargas clenched her fists, her jaw tightening. The celebration on Earth now felt like a distant memory, replaced by the cold reality of an imminent attack. "Contact the United Earth Defense Command," Vargas ordered, her voice steady but firm. "We need to mobilize immediately. If what they said is true, this won't just be a battle. It'll be a war for survival." As Earth's leaders gathered to discuss their response, the Zovark fleet entered the outer reaches of the solar system, their ships cloaked in darkness. Xarn stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the distant light of the human sun. "Soon," he said, his voice low and menacing, "they will understand the price of challenging the Zovarks. Their precious star will become their undoing." The first signs of the attack came swiftly. Earth's observatories detected strange energy fluctuations near the sun, patterns that couldn't be natural. Satellites monitoring solar activity picked up sudden bursts of radiation aimed directly at Earth. The Zovarks were using their solar disruptors to destabilize the star, causing massive solar flares to lash out at the planet. In a desperate bid to protect their world, humanity activated its orbital defenses. Massive shields were deployed to absorb the radiation, and fleets of starships took to the skies, ready to confront the invaders. Yet even as humanity braced for the fight, doubts lingered. The Zovarks were a species with centuries of interstellar warfare experience. How could Earth's relatively young defenses hold up against such overwhelming force? Vargas knew that conventional tactics wouldn't be enough. As she stood aboard the command ship Eclipse, overlooking the battle preparations, she addressed her crew. "We've been underestimated before, and we proved them wrong. This time is no different. They think they can turn the sun against us, but they don't understand who they're dealing with. Humanity doesn't just survive. We adapt, we fight, and we win." Cheers erupted across the deck, but the tension was palpable. Every soldier, scientist, and strategist knew the stakes. The Zovarks weren't just coming to defeat humanity. They were coming to erase it. As the first wave of Zovark ships emerged from the shadows, the battle began. Earth's forces met them head-on, their ships darting between the enemy's solar beams in a deadly dance. Explosions lit up the darkness of space, painting the void with flashes of light. But even as the battle raged, Vargas's mind worked tirelessly. She knew the only way to win was to turn the Zovark's own weapon against them. If humanity could harness the sun's power, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a source of strength, they might stand a chance. In the chaos of the battle, a plan began to take shape. It was bold, dangerous, and near impossible, but it was their only hope. The humans would fight with everything they had, not just for survival, but to show the galaxy what it truly meant to endure. The stillness of space shattered as the first wave of Zovark warships broke through the darkness. Their sleek black hulls reflected faint starlight, and their engines emitted an eerie low hum that seemed to vibrate through the void itself. Earth's orbital defense stations immediately sprang into action, their alarms blaring as fleets of human ships rose to meet the threat. Commander Elena Vargas stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, her eyes locked on the tactical display. The holographic map showed the incoming Zovark fleet in ominous red, a sea of moving danger encircling Earth. Her crew worked feverishly at their stations, voices sharp and focused as they relayed commands and data. "First contact in 90 seconds, Commander," reported Captain Ren Aldrin, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Elena's fingers gripped the edge of the console as she leaned forward. "Send the signal to all ships. No one engages alone. We fight as one." The Zovarks struck first. Bright beams of energy erupted from their solar disruptors, slicing through space with terrifying precision. The beams slammed into Earth's orbital shields, causing massive ripples of energy to cascade across their surface. On the ground, people looked up at the sky in horror as faint flashes of light signaled the battle above. Human ships moved quickly to counter. The Eclipse led the charge, its weapon systems unleashing a barrage of plasma bolts that streaked toward the enemy. The Zovarks were fast, their ships weaving through the attacks with unnatural agility. But the humans were relentless, using formations and strategies designed to outmaneuver even the most advanced opponents. The battle was chaos. Explosions lit up the void as ships from both sides fell. A human fighter squadron darted between enemy cruisers, firing precisely at weak points. Meanwhile, Zovark drones swarmed the defenders, their smaller size and numbers overwhelming several human vessels. On the Eclipse, alarms blared as a Zovark destroyer turned its attention toward them. The ship fired a concentrated solar beam, aimed directly at the bridge. "Evasive maneuvers," Elena shouted, gripping the railing as the ship lurched to the side. The beam grazed the hull, leaving a molten scar, but sparing the ship from destruction. "Damage report." "Minor hull breach on Deck 4, Ren replied. "No casualties, but we've lost one of our forward plasma cannons." Elena nodded, her mind racing. "Target that destroyer's power core. Let's see how they handle their own weaponry." The Eclipse pivoted, its remaining cannons firing in unison. The plasma bolts struck the destroyer's core, triggering a massive explosion that sent shockwaves through the battlefield. A cheer erupted on the bridge, but Elena's expression remained grim. "For every one we take down, they send 5 more," she muttered. The Zovarks' true strategy soon became clear. While their fleet kept Earth's defenses occupied, smaller stealth ships broke away from the main battle. These ships carried ground invasion forces, aiming to breach Earth's surface and disable critical infrastructure. On the ground, the invasion began with sudden strikes on major cities. The Zovarks deployed advanced combat units, heavily armored soldiers armed with energy weapons that could melt through steel. They moved with precision, targeting communication hubs, power stations, and defense installations. In New York City, chaos erupted as Zovark troops descended from their ships. Civilians ran for cover, their screams filling the air as buildings crumbled under the invaders' assault. Earth's ground forces, though outgunned, rallied quickly. Soldiers armed with railguns and drones engaged the Zovarks, fighting to protect their home. Private Leila Moreno crouched behind a barricade, her hands shaking as she reloaded her weapon. Around her, fellow soldiers exchanged fire with the towering Zovark troops. Their energy shields absorbed most of the initial attacks, but concentrated fire eventually brought them down. "They just keep coming," one soldier yelled, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Leila gritted her teeth, raising her rifle. "Then we keep fighting." She fired a burst at an approaching Zovark, the bullets finding a gap in its armor. The alien fell with a mechanical screech, but another immediately took its place. Above the planet, the battle in space grew even more desperate. The Zovarks unleashed their next weapon, solar destabilizers. These devices were designed to amplify the sun's energy, creating massive solar flares directed toward Earth. "Commander, we've detected multiple destabilizers being deployed around the sun," Wren reported. "If they activate, the resulting solar flare will obliterate the orbital shields and everything on the surface." Elena's mind raced. If the destabilizers weren't stopped, Earth wouldn't survive the next hour. She turned to her crew, her voice firm. "Prepare a strike team. We're taking those destabilizers out." Aboard the Eclipse, a team of elite soldiers suited up, their expressions grim but determined. They knew the risks. Approaching the destabilizers meant flying dangerously close to the sun, where temperatures and radiation levels were deadly. But failure wasn't an option. As the strike team launched in specially shielded fighters, the rest of the human fleet continued to hold the Zovarks at bay. Elena watched from the bridge, her heart pounding. The outcome of the mission would determine the fate of humanity. The fighters approached the first destabilizer, a massive structure orbiting perilously close to the sun. Its surface bristled with automated defenses, firing relentlessly at the incoming ships. "Stay in formation," the team leader barked. "Target those turrets first." The fighters weaved through the onslaught, their weapons blazing. Explosions dotted the destabilizer's surface as turrets were destroyed one by one. But the closer they got, the more intense the heat and radiation became. "Shields at critical levels," one pilot reported, his voice strained. "Keep going," the leader replied. "We have to finish this." As the team closed in, they deployed specialized charges designed to overload the destabilizer's core. The devices latched onto the structure, their timers ticking down. "Charges are set," the leader called out. "Get clear." The fighters peeled away just as the destabilizer erupted in a blinding explosion. The shockwave rippled outward, briefly illuminating the dark expanse of space. Back on the Eclipse, cheers erupted as the first destabilizer was destroyed. But Elena knew there were still more to go, and time was running out. "Prepare for the next target," she ordered. "We're not done yet." As the battle raged on, the resilience and determination of humanity shone brighter than ever. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy with centuries of experience. But they refused to back down. For every life lost, for every sacrifice made, they'd fought harder. The Zovarks had underestimated them once again, and they would pay the price. The victory against the Zovark command ship was short-lived. While the destruction of their flagship had thrown the invaders into disarray, it hadn't ended the war. What remained of the Zovark fleet regrouped quickly, driven by desperation and fury. Their reinforcements, summoned from deep space, were now mere hours away. The surviving human forces, battered but defiant, prepared for one last stand. Commander Elena Vargas stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, the dim light from the holographic map casting shadows across her face. The battle-worn crew around her awaited her orders, their exhaustion evident, but their resolve unbroken. The news was grim. More Zovark ships, larger and deadlier, were approaching Earth. If humanity couldn't hold the line, there would be no Earth left to save. "Patch me through to every resistance cell, every surviving ship," Elena ordered. The comms officer nodded, his hands trembling as he activated the global broadcast. Across the planet and in orbit, her voice rang out, clear and unyielding. "This is Commander Vargas. We've dealt the Zovarks a heavy blow, but the fight isn't over. Reinforcements are on their way, and they won't stop until Earth is ashes. This is our moment, our last stand. We're not fighting for just survival anymore. We're fighting for our future, for everything we hold dear. To every fighter, every survivor, stand with us. Together, we can do the impossible." Her words ignited a spark of hope across the globe. In underground bunkers, resistance fighters armed themselves. On war-torn streets, civilians joined hands to build barricades. In orbit, the remaining human fleet, held together by duct tape and determination, formed a defensive perimeter. This was humanity's last stand, and they would fight with everything they had. Hours later, the sky darkened as the Zovark reinforcements arrived. Their ships blotted out the stars, massive and ominous, bristling with weapons. The largest among them, a dreadnought capable of leveling entire cities with a single strike, loomed over Earth like a harbinger of doom. Elena watched from the bridge as the enemy fleet advanced. "All ships, hold position. Don't fire until I give the order." The Zovarks wasted no time. Beams of energy rained down on Earth's surface, targeting key resistance strongholds. Explosions lit up the night as buildings crumbled and fire consumed the land. Yet humanity did not falter. Anti-aircraft batteries hidden in the ruins fired back, striking the smaller Zovark ships with precision. In space, the human fleet launched its counterattack. Fighters swarmed the enemy ships, darting between laser fire to deliver their payloads. The Eclipse led the charge, its experimental weapons tearing through enemy shields. On the ground, chaos reigned. In New York, resistance fighters battled Zovark troops in the rubble of skyscrapers. In Cairo, the pyramid stood as a backdrop to brutal firefights. In Sydney, the harbor became a battlefield as Zovark tanks clashed with human artillery. Despite their advanced technology, the Zovarks found themselves outmatched by humanity's ingenuity and grit. Elena's voice rang out on the comms. "Focus fire on the dreadnought. If we take it down, we can break their fleet." The human fleet converged on the massive ship, their weapons pounding its shields. But the dreadnought was well defended, and its return fire was devastating. One by one, human ships were obliterated, their crews sacrificing themselves to buy time. Inside the dreadnought, the Zovark commander sneered. "These humans are persistent, but they are no match for us. Crush them." On board the Eclipse, the situation was dire. The ship shuddered as it took another hit, sparks flying from damaged consoles. Wren, the weapons officer, shouted, "We can't take much more of this." Elena refused to back down. "Divert all power to the weapons. We're not retreating." Suddenly, a transmission crackled through the comms. It was Private Leela Moreno, leading the ground assault near one of the Zovark landing zones. "Commander, we've captured a Zovark communication hub. We're feeding you their shield frequency data now." Elena's eyes widened as the data appeared on her screen. "Leela, you've just given us a fighting chance. Hold your position. We'll take it from here." Using the frequency data, the human fleet adjusted their weapons, targeting the weak points in the dreadnought's shields. The change was immediate. Explosions rippled across the massive ship's surface as its defenses began to falter. "Keep up the pressure," Elena commanded. As the dreadnought's shields collapsed, Elena made a bold decision: prepare the ramming sequence. The crew stared at her in shock. General Asher, watching the battle unfold from a ground base, appeared on the comms. "Elena, what are you doing?" She met his gaze through the screen. "Finishing the fight." The Eclipse surged forward, its engines burning at maximum thrust. Zovark ships scrambled to intercept, but they were too late. The Eclipse, now a blazing spear of destruction, collided with the dreadnought's core. The resulting explosion was blinding, a shockwave that rocked the entire battlefield. The dreadnought disintegrated, and with it, the backbone of the Zovark fleet. On Earth, the resistance fighters cheered as the Zovark forces began to retreat. The remaining alien ships fled into deep space, their morale shattered. The victory came at a heavy cost. The Eclipse was gone, along with many brave souls who had fought to the end. But humanity had survived. In the days that followed, survivors emerged from the rubble to rebuild. The scars of the invasion were deep, but so was the resilience of the human spirit. Elena's sacrifice became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, humanity could rise to meet any challenge. The Zovarks had underestimated the one thing they couldn't replicate: the unyielding will to fight for freedom and home. The silence after the battle was haunting. Earth's orbit, once filled with explosions and chaos, now lay eerily calm, littered with debris from human and Zovark ships alike. The light of the sun glinted off shattered hulls and drifting wreckage, a solemn reminder of the price humanity had paid. On the ground, the cheers of victory had faded, replaced by the sobering reality of their losses. Commander Elena Vargas's sacrifice had become the cornerstone of the victory. Her name echoed across the resistance networks and into the hearts of every survivor. The Eclipse had been more than just a ship. It was a symbol of defiance, and its destruction was both a triumphant moment and a devastating loss. General Asher stood on a makeshift podium in the ruins of Earth's largest spaceport, addressing the gathered survivors and broadcasting across the globe. His voice was heavy with emotion, yet steady with pride. "Today, we stand as proof that humanity cannot be broken. Against an enemy that sought to extinguish us, we fought back. Against impossible odds, we won. This victory isn't just ours. It belongs to every soul we lost, every sacrifice made." Commander Vargas and the brave crew of the Eclipse gave everything so that we could have this chance. Let us honor them by rebuilding, by ensuring their sacrifice wasn't in vain. The crowd erupted into applause, though many wiped tears from their faces. Among them stood Lila Moreno, her arm in a makeshift sling from injuries sustained during the ground battle. She looked up at the sky, now clear and blue, a stark contrast to the chaos she had witnessed mere hours ago. The Zovark fleet was shattered, their command structure obliterated. Reports from resistance fighters in space revealed that the remaining alien ships had scattered, retreating into the far reaches of the galaxy. The once dominant Zovark Empire, which had sought to enslave humanity, now teetered on the brink of collapse. In the days that followed, humanity worked tirelessly to recover. In every corner of the globe, survivors emerged to rebuild homes, infrastructure, and hope. Resistance leaders united to form a global council, ensuring Earth's defense and future would never again rely on fragmented efforts. The war had taught them that unity was their greatest strength. Amidst the ruins of the United Nations building, where humanity's leaders once debated peace and progress, the newly formed Earth Council convened. Engineers, scientists, and strategists worked to reverse engineer Zovark technology from the wreckage of their ships. Humanity had not just survived, they had acquired the means to advance in ways they had only dreamed of before. One such breakthrough came when a team of engineers discovered a functional Zovark energy core in the wreckage of a downed cruiser. The core, once a mystery, now became the foundation for limitless clean energy. As scientists studied the technology, they found ways to integrate it with Earth's systems, propelling humanity into a new age of innovation. While progress brought hope, the scars of the war were slow to heal. Families mourned their lost loved ones, and cities struggled to rise from the ashes. Memorials were erected across the planet, honoring the heroes who had fallen. One of the largest stood in the heart of what was once New York City, a towering monument depicting the eclipse soaring into battle, its crew immortalized in the faces carved into its base. On the far reaches of the galaxy, humanity's victory had sent shockwaves. The Zovark Empire, long feared as the most powerful force in the universe, was now seen as vulnerable. Other oppressed species began to rise up, inspired by humanity's defiance. Whispers of rebellion spread, and the Zovarks found themselves battling insurrections on multiple fronts. For the first time in their history, the galaxy saw humans not as fragile newcomers, but as a force to be reckoned with. Diplomatic envoys from distant worlds reached out, seeking alliances and offering support. Some species, once under Zovark rule, pledged their loyalty to humanity, eager to fight alongside the warriors who had defeated the galaxy's most feared empire. Lila Moreno, now a decorated hero, stood in the ruins of her hometown. The fields where she had played as a child were scorched, the streets she had walked reduced to rubble. Yet amidst the devastation, she saw signs of life returning. Children played among the ruins, laughing as they built makeshift shelters. Volunteers worked tirelessly to clear debris and plant seeds for new crops. She thought of Elena Vargas and the countless others who had given their lives for this future. Their sacrifices had not been in vain. The resilience she saw in those around her was proof of that. Months later, as Earth rebuilt, the first human-led fleet set out into space. No longer limited to defending their home, humanity now sought to explore, to connect with allies, and to ensure that no threat like the Zovarks would ever rise again. The flagship of this fleet bore the name Eclipse Aya, a tribute to the ship and crew that had paved the way for this new era. As the fleet ascended into the stars, humanity looked forward with hope. The scars of the past would remain, but they would serve as reminders of their strength and unity. The galaxy had underestimated Earth once, but never again. The final message from Earth's new council to the galaxy was simple and resolute. We are humanity. We do not conquer, we endure, and when challenged, we rise.